So I've literally watched it unfold. I've watched thousands of mothers join creek groups that I was in. It just, yeah, I wish I could have stopped. I really thought I could stop it or at least slow it.
Heather Ruzic wanted to warn as many people as possible about the danger of illicit fentanyl after her son died in 2015. But she's not only watched a growing number of parents suffer the same tragedy, but the epidemic has also continued to hit her family in unexpected ways.
We were at one time a family of 4, and half of that family is gone.
Heather's life story reads like something straight out of a movie or even the plot of several miniseries, but the reality of it all is far from glamorous.
After he died, I did go to the doctor and just wanted antidepressants, nerve pills, like give me whatever. I didn't care. I did do that.
Despite grappling with the loss of several loved ones, battling substance use disorder herself, and facing feelings of shame, guilt, and countless other emotions, Heather refused to stay silent. Instead, she's raising her voice and advocating for change at a time when our country is facing its deadliest drug epidemic in history. I'm Angela Kennecke. This is Grieving Out Loud. If this is the first time listening to this podcast, welcome. I too know personally the devastating impact of the fentanyl crisis. I lost my 21-year-old daughter to the powerful synthetic opioid in 2018. I believe that by raising awareness about the crisis together, we can make a difference and save lives. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining me on Grieving Out Loud. It's a pleasure to see you again. We've seen each other in Washington, D.C. at some advocacy events.
Yes. Yes, it's good to see you. Those are so important. That's when I feel like I'm actually doing something, is when my feet are on the ground and I'm in places, meeting people and, you know, screaming out loud.
I think there's a synergy, when we all come together. We all have had not identical experiences, but very similar experiences. And I always say there are power in numbers.
Right. Absolutely. I wish there weren't so many numbers.
Yeah, I know. Sadly, it gets worse every year. Heather's journey with substances began at a very young age. She says her dad struggled with substance use disorder, and then she fell in love and married a man who battled alcohol addiction.
He had been dealing with that since we were teenagers. He was an alcoholic, and that's why we divorced.
Heather believes the divorce was also traumatic for her 2 children at the time, especially her son Caleb.
He was always depressed, probably from like 6 or 7. Divorce was about in that age. He lost his grandmother, and then a typical kid out of divorce. And then a stepfather who was abusive verbally. It was a horrible situation. And then once we got out of that, my boys had a bit of freedom. They were, no longer living under fear of the horrible stepfather, but I guess they kind of had free reign. I had 4 children. I was going to school and working, so I wasn't always there. But I've always thought it's just a phase. He's a typical kid. He skateboards. He listens to music. He's just, it's just a phase. I experimented as a teenager with marijuana or whatever, so I thought he'll grow out of it.
Instead of growing out of it, Caleb fell further into his substance use disorder. By age 16, he was grappling with severe meth addiction.
He was actually kidnapped at 18 for like a $20 drug deal going bad, which he just wanted to keep the pills for himself. Like it was like $30. These 8 baseball players kidnapped him, tortured him for 2 hours, like put cigarettes out on him, broke his knee with a bat, had footprints with grass embedded in his back. It was horrible. But he felt like he deserved that. He never wanted to give up their names. He just felt like he deserved it. And that's the place he was in. That's where addicts stand. They feel like They deserve what happens to them. They deserve to be treated like crap because they chose that. That's what they feel.
We've talked to several people about the shame of substance use disorder, including Tom Wolfe, who got addicted to prescription painkillers following foot surgery.
Addiction, it's a disease of the mind. It's been well documented. It's a disease of the mind in which addiction actually implants itself in your basic brain functions of your survival instinct. And of course, every time that I would prioritize it, I felt more and more guilt, more and more shame, stigmatizing myself. It wasn't that anyone was stigmatizing me, I was stigmatizing myself. I was beating myself up because I felt bad that I couldn't be there for my kids. I felt bad that when it was time to read a bedtime story to my daughter, I was passing out and not able to do it. And they would ask me questions like, Daddy, why are you sleeping all the time?
I know my daughter was ashamed because I found a writing in her journal after she died addressing shame. So I think most people who are using, they don't want to be using, they know it's not right. A part of them knows, right?
That's right.
And so there's so much self-shame that they don't even need anybody else to shame them.
And the irony is that, I wanted to stop, but I
Sure.
couldn't stop. I couldn't. I can't stress that enough to anyone out there that's never experienced addiction. Imagine trying to stop something that if you do, your body has a visceral reaction to actually stopping it.
Meanwhile, Caleb was really struggling with that shame following the assault. His mom decided a move may provide a fresh start.
He got over the meth addiction. We moved right after he got jumped and beat up. We moved and he went to live with his dad. And I didn't know his dad was also, I knew he was a drinker, but I didn't know he was using pills, which it didn't come from his dad, but I'm sure that they partake together, probably.
At 20 years old, Caleb took what he thought was a Percocet, but it ended up being a deadly amount of fentanyl.
It was 2015 when I sure didn't know that they existed.
Right. I don't think most people did in 2015. Even in 2018, when my daughter died, people were just starting to talk about fentanyl, really. So I'm sure he didn't know. The family would soon know even more about fentanyl. After Caleb's death, his father, Heather's ex-husband, also died from fentanyl poisoning.
And to be honest, I have a lot of bitter feelings towards him for the death of Caleb because he knew what was going on and didn't tell me in time. So I was very bitter towards him. But yes, it is horrible. And he had been dealing with that since we were teenagers. He was an alcoholic, and that's why we divorced. So I guess he, after we separated, he turned to pills.
Heather has another son, Spencer, with her ex-husband. She says watching him struggle with the losses of both his brother and father has been extremely challenging and emotionally draining.
To see my son hurt, that's where my son is really hurt by that. And it is sad. We were at one time a family of 4, and half of that family is gone. So yeah.
You mentioned divorce. You mentioned an abusive stepfather. And I think as mothers, we all carry a lot of guilt with us when we have a child who struggles and
Yeah.
ultimately dies. Did you struggle with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot. A lot actually. And it still comes up because I have a son still today who's 26 who's had to live through all this grief that I've experienced with his dad and his brother. And he struggles with substance abuse to this day, which he's okay right now, but that's this week. So, but he just can't bear so much grief at such a young age.
So how do you cope with your grief and your guilt?
Initially, it was alcohol. And then I had a botched surgery and it was pain pills. So that's kind of how I got there.
The one thing I wanted to really point out to our listeners is that your family has been ravaged by the opioid epidemic.
Absolutely. Yeah. After he died, I did go to the doctor and just wanted antidepressants, nerve pills, like give me whatever. I didn't care. I did do that. But I did have a surgery. It's a long story. We don't have time for it, but I was left with implants and the medical tool device was in there for 8 years and it caused like nickel poisoning and I was really sick. So the hysterectomy and I was taking pills right before the hysterectomy and pretty much didn't stop until about 3 years ago.
Did you know you were addicted?
Yeah, because my pills weren't lasting all month as your tolerance builds
Mm.
up. And I tried to tell my doctor I was educated enough by now, and I was trying to tell her, I was like, "These aren't working anymore." And she's like, "You probably just need to take a hydrocodone vacation." I'm like, "What?" Just like, "Stop taking them for a week and they'll work again." Like, "Okay, let me be in withdrawal for a week."
Thankfully, Heather asked if she could be on Suboxone, a prescription medication approved by the FDA to treat opioid use disorder. However, the medication has been controversial because it's an opioid partial agonist, but it causes much less euphoria than other opioids, and in many cases, people use Suboxone to manage withdrawal or even get themselves off of heroin, prescription pills, and fentanyl. It is the preferred treatment for opioid use disorder.
I hate that it's so stigmatized
So Suboxone helped you.
instantly, which I hated. The first clinic I went to was really bad, and you had to be there every day for like 3 hours, and it was very hard with working and having kids at home. It was hard, but I found a doctor that's actually my family doctor. She's the only MAC provider in our county, but it was an instant, like, from the first day, I never craved a pill. It was done.
Wow. You're a walking, talking testament for medically assisted treatment for opioid use disorder.
It's amazing, and people, they stigmatize it so badly and think you're trading one drug for another, but I am not getting high. I am just not getting withdrawals. I'm not in withdrawals. I'm not out trying to seek drugs. I'm living my life, going to work, and I'm doing fine, and now with Sublocade, there's an out. So if people are worried about getting on MAP, then how am I going to get off that? Sublocade, there's plenty of people that had gotten off of Suboxone with Sublocade with zero withdrawals, and they're fine, like, it worked.
Do you still take Suboxone?
I do, because that surgery left me with a lot of damage and arthritis, and I'm honestly scared to come off of it. I still live with pain, but I am a little nervous to come off, yeah.
Sure. And I know a young woman, a mother who's functioning. We have her story on our website, and she has been on MAT for 5 years and has been doing beautifully. So we don't ask diabetics to get off their medication. We don't ask people with heart disease to get off of their medication. Why do we ask people suffering from substance use disorder to get off of their medication?
Right. I did a lot of research. It was a big decision to give up my prescription of 90 pills a month versus going and signing my life away to say I'm a drug seeker or whatever they put in your file, to where I'll never get pain pills again, whether it's a surgery or whatever. So that's what you're signing away. So it's a big decision. But I did the research and I seen that some don't label it as pain medication or to manage pain, but it can be used to manage pain. And I do live with pain. So I just felt like it was the safest way. I'm not going to run out. I'm not going to have to worry about getting it from the street. It was the best thing for me and it worked.
Unfortunately, the family's struggles with substance use disorder don't stop there. Heather's other son, Spencer, has also battled addiction. So obviously, substance use disorder runs in families, and their dad struggled since he was a teenager. You have yourself struggled. So it's logical that your kids would struggle, right?
Both their grandfathers.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how is Spencer doing today?
Today he's good. I'm trying to convince him to go to treatment, but he went to treatment a lot as a teenager because he was unruly, and that's where they just sent him to treatment forcefully, like he didn't have a choice. But so he's pretty against treatment, but he has survived so many things. Like, he just openly told me that he overdosed after his grandfather's funeral. So he went to the grandfather's funeral, who is his dad's dad. So I guess he thought he was gonna get some closure and get to go to the house and see where Caleb lived, his dad stayed, and granddad and his grandmother at one time when she was living, but the house was already sold, so he didn't get to go, and get that closure just to see Caleb's room and his dad's room. And then the car broke down and he just decided to find drugs, and he did. And he told me that he overdosed and some homeless person knocked him twice. He has survived Like, he has a purpose to be here. Like, he has survived getting shot at. He has survived so many things, and he's probably overdosed more than that. And one other time I know of, but he only recently started admitting this, that he's been using fentanyl. Like, he's just so depressed.
It's hard to imagine. I think those of us who have not suffered from substance use disorder and who also now the whole world knows the word fentanyl, right? And how dangerous it is and how little it takes to kill someone. It's hard to fathom why people seek that out, right?
Right. Yeah. So I've watched it go from heroin to fentanyl. I don't like it when people say they're seeking fentanyl, they're seeking fentanyl. Well, they are, but because they've become accustomed to it, because that's all there is. There is no heroin. So
Yeah. Good point.
if you're addicted and you need to not be in withdrawals and not be sick and you're already addicted, you don't have much to choose from. It's going to be fentanyl. So, I mean, technically they are seeking fentanyl, but that's all there is.
And we should explain the reason that there's very little heroin left out there on the market anymore is because fentanyl is so cheap and easy that has basically replaced heroin. And it's obviously a much more powerful, potent opioid. Have you lost a loved one to overdose or fentanyl poisoning? I'd like to invite you to share their story on our new Emily's Hope Memorial website called More Than Just a Number. They were our children, siblings, cousins, husbands, wives, aunts, uncles, and friends. So much more than just a number. You can submit a memorial today on morethanjustanumber.org. We've talked with lots of experts on that topic here on Grieving Out Loud, including DEA Special Agent in Charge, Justin King.
The synthetic drug does not have a growing season. It does not have a product. They don't have to have the manual labor to do all that. And, I've worked in Afghanistan in the poppy fields and eradicating that. And it's a very tedious process to produce heroin from that once you get that going. It's the same thing with marijuana growing. So anything synthetic, there's a higher profit margin, and plus they can make an unlimited supply of it.
And you just need a building to make it in.
A building, but they a lot of times will make it in the middle of a jungle, or they'll make it, somewhere in a rural area, because it takes a lot of laboratories to make the products.
And so you mentioned that heroin was coming in for a while, but now is there much heroin or is it just all fentanyl?
We have seen a decline in heroin seizures significantly. There still are heroin seizures. We still do, but with the fentanyl seizures, like we said, it's a lower overhead product. They don't have to put as much money into it, and they will produce that, and their profit margins are extremely high because of it.
It's all about profit.
All about profit. And first we saw the heroin, some fentanyl mixed into it, and then evolved to just pure fentanyl. And then they started making the fake pills to look like the prescription drugs.
And those counterfeit pills are partially to blame for the increase in fentanyl poisoning deaths. In fact, new research published in the International Journal of Drug Policy finds that law enforcement is seizing a skyrocketing number of fake prescription pills laced with fentanyl, more than 115 million pills in 2023 compared to about 71 million in 2022, and less than 50,000 in 2017. You can read more news headlines like this on our website, emilyshope.charity. We've posted a link in the show notes of this podcast. You've been through so much. How do you take care of yourself, and how do you cope with your own grief? And then I'm sure your fear and worry about Spencer now. I mean, like you said, half of your original family is gone.
Yeah. I mean, I have kids, so I live for them. I have 2 girls, teenagers, and I have Spencer's daughter who's 6. So, I mean, that's really what I do. I just, I have the other kids.
How are your girls doing? Any indication that they might also suffer from this?
No, they're great. I mean, they've been through a lot, but
Yeah.
they're doing good. I don't know if it'll be later on, I don't know.
I bet you're kind of just sitting there like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, that's how I think I would feel if I were in your situation.
Yeah. I think the girls are good. They have goals. They're doing good in school still. Kinsley is Spencer's daughter, who that would be the one I'd probably worry about other than Spencer, because she's been raised by a grandmother. That's scary because, you know, those kids grow up and think, why did my mom not want me? Or why was I, you know, I can imagine how they feel like abandoned, but which Spencer is still around, but he's working on himself. He's got some work to do.
He's not really ready to be a full father figure.
No.
Yeah. What about the mother?
She, as far as I know, is still in active addiction.
That's so sad. I think people do forget about the children and about all the grandparents raising grandchildren.
Yeah, there are so many grandparents raising grandchildren. So many.
Hmm.
I work for the state with public assistance, and I see a lot of grandmothers raising grandchildren, raising more than one grandchild. Sad.
Yeah. So, what do you think some of the solutions are to get us to a healthier place in this country?
Well, just stop stigmatizing for one. I mean, stigmas in the pharmacy, stigmas at the doctor's office. I think we need to destigmatize math because I mean, I've seen it work wonders. If someone is truly ready to stop, that will help them. That's a great tool. Just the stigma is horrible and we need more recovery. If you don't have insurance, you've got to wait on a grant bed. And they may be ready that day, but, you know, 7 days later when that bed opens up, they might not be ready.
And you're making an incredible point about stigma at the doctor's office, at the pharmacy, because that's one of the initiatives we're working on at Emily's Hope is to help reduce the stigma. I'm actually speaking to healthcare providers about the stigma that my daughter faced going to the doctor, seeking help, some of the mistakes that were made along the way, because physicians and other medical professionals don't have enough training in addiction and they have their own preconceived ideas about it. And we're also working really hard to destigmatize Matt. Now that the X waiver is gone and anybody can prescribe it, we need more prescribers.
I'm afraid some doctors just don't want to deal with it though.
Right.
But yeah, I'm more stigmatized at the pharmacy when I get my Suboxone filled than I was when I was getting my hydrocodone filled.
Really. And
Yeah.
tell me what that feels like. What happens?
So my doctor had prescribed me a low dose pain pill when I like had a disc bulging in my neck. And they were just like, when I speak to your doctor, I'm going to let her know how we feel about this. And you can't, it's one or the other. It's one or the other. And now that you've come and tried to fill this narcotic when you're on Suboxone, we will not be filling your prescriptions anytime in the future. I was just like, what? I'm just doing what my doctor said. Like I have always done what my doctor said. I went from one doctor with pain medications to one doctor to Suboxone. I've always been under doctor's care, you know? But yeah, it was horrible. I was like, "So when my medicine's due, like, in a couple weeks, I can't get it." She's like, "No, no." They know me well. They know my name when it comes up there.
What did you do? Were you able to resolve that issue?
I submitted a complaint, and then when my medicine was due to fill, I did get it, which she did not fill the pain medicine, which she said it wouldn't work anyway, probably, and probably wouldn't, which I was gonna have carpal tunnel surgery, and I talked to the doctor, and he said, "Some doctors will just let you continue with the Suboxone, and then that you'll just have to get, like, a Toradol shot, take ibuprofen 800, and just deal with the pain from there." Because Suboxone has some pain relief, but not as much as pain medications. But you sure can't take both to the pharmacy or you'll get screamed at.
Wow. That seems really unfair because it seems like if they had an issue with it, they should have called the doctor and discussed it with the doctor instead of blaming you, the patient.
Right. Yeah. It definitely made me feel like, a piece of trash. I was just doing what the doctor said, which I think that, yes, the X waiver and the doctors can do it, but I'm really afraid they don't want to. We have one in this county, and our mental health providers are going away. We have little to none in this county, and the ones that are here are leaving. So this county's going to have one provider and no mental health providers. So it's bad.
Yeah, it sounds like we really have a huge need for public funding of both mental health and substance use disorder recovery, all of this, and it's just not happening in so
Right.
many areas. We know that people don't get the help they need in jails and many prisons, and almost all crime that we see today is fueled by addiction.
Yeah. And we can't arrest our way out of this.
No, and every law enforcement person I have talked to says that. We cannot arrest her. They know that, right? It's just
Right.
that that's the system we have in place. We don't have an alternative system in place.
Right. So we need more physicians to sign up to be MAP providers and just people to be open to, stop stigmatizing. It's everywhere. I mean, it's in my workplace. I have to hear it pretty often. I'll just say, let's just stop this conversation now. I did get my peer recovery specialist certification, but I haven't been able to use it yet.
That's great. And peer recovery specialists are going to be playing a very big role because there, as you said, there are not enough addiction counselors. There are not enough people to help. We're turning to peer recovery support specialists in my organization to help us because that's who we have. And if you're trained and you've had that lived experience, it can be very valuable.
Yeah, I just want to help. I just want to help people. I want them to know they're not worthless. They are worthy of living and being respected.
Thank you for going through that training and thank you for wanting to get back to help others.
Yeah. I mean, what else would I do? What else would we do?
Yeah. I think that we're all working in our children's names to try to make a difference so other people don't know this pain. And I'm so sorry for everything that you've been through. I'm very proud of you for speaking out about it and for sharing your own personal struggle as well.
Thank you.
I'm sure I will be seeing you down the road, probably in Washington, D.C. at some point or some other kind of rally or advocacy forum that we are at. I really do appreciate you sharing the story. And again, I'm so sorry for the losses that you've had to endure and the struggles with addiction within your family.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard. Hopefully, like you said, we have power in numbers. And if we all just keep working towards it, hopefully we can make a change.
And we invite you too to join us in pushing for that change. Head over to emily'shope.charity to find ways you can get involved in the fight against fentanyl while reducing the stigma surrounding substance use disorder and increasing accessibility to treatment. I want to thank you for listening to Grieving Out Loud, and please give us a 5-star review. Be sure to join us next week for another episode. Until next time, wishing you faith, hope, and courage. This podcast is produced by Kayli Wonnenberg King and Anna Fye.